Welcome to Mrs Mummypenny Talks podcast, The Big Questions, in my fancy new studio for season 7, and I have a guest actually with me. Welcome to Faith Archer, my very good friend. Thank you ever so much for joining me in real life.
I'm delighted to be here and great to be part of the latest series.
Thank you. So you may recognise Faith from probably every podcast season I've ever done. Particularly season 5, where we co-hosted the podcast together, which was that cost of living special, where we did 7 episodes, which is still incredibly relevant today, as it was whenever we recorded it. 2022? Yeah.
So many tips just about practical tips on managing money, and let's face it, the bills aren't going down.
Yeah. It was like one episode was about bills, one episode was about food, one episode was about debt, one episode was about sort of saving for the future. It was packed full of like amazing, literally that's 50 tips for every episode. It was very good. So I will put links to all of those episodes in this. But anyway, now it's season 7 and the podcast continues to grow and grow and grow, and I decided to go big with a nice fancy studio and good audio, because I think that's maybe what I've struggled with in the past. So we are going to be talking about a big question, and that big question is something that we are both very passionate about, and we know that lots of the listeners and watchers will also be interested in, which is talking about
how to live well for longer.
So Mrs Mummypenny has always been about healthy wealth, body and mind, because I've always since the beginning thought that if you could sort out all those 3 things, life would be pretty sorted. I think it's quite a high expectation to have all those things sorted out, but certainly a good healthy body and healthy mind will lead to having healthy wealth as well, because health is wealth.
Absolutely. And the 3 aspects are fundamentally so interrelated. And you can absolutely see that, for example, if you're running into wealth problems, debt, that creates enormous issues with your emotions and with your body. That can have an immense impact.
Absolutely. But before we go into the detail, I should have said, because people, even though I've interviewed you so many times, people might not actually know anything about you. So can you just share a little bit about your past with working for the Telegraph and your journalistic acumen and what you do now and why you do what you do?
Well, I guess my job is talking about money. And I've been a journalist now for well over 20 years. Started off
really scary, isn't it? When you say
you start adding it up. So yes, I used to work for the Daily Telegraph. I was deputy personal finance editor there. When I had my kids, I went freelance. So I still write occasional pieces for newspapers like the Telegraph. I've had stuff in the Times and Ask the Financial Times, the iPaper, that kind of thing. I actually do a lot nowadays for women's magazines, because one of the things I felt when I was leaving the Telegraph, there were a lot of people that could do with help and tips about money that would never pick up the money section of a broadsheet newspaper. So some of the stuff that I've been submitting over the last week is articles for Woman and Home, Woman's Own, Yours, that I do every fortnight, 3 pages every fortnight. And I do also have my own blog and social media at Much More With Less.
Wonderful. So literally it was an underserved community of women. You wanted to get the word out to people like us that money is not scary, not to be ignored.
Yeah, I think I'm passionate about money, and I don't think it's boring. I think it can give you freedom and choice. If you can sort out the money matters, so much else becomes possible.
Yeah.
So I was kind of excited to get money messages across, hopefully in a way that is understandable, rather than stuff with jargon and just making you switch off.
Yeah, the most annoying thing about money is that a lot of people think it's boring. Okay, I don't think it's boring. You don't think it's boring. But it does scare a lot of people because of the jargon that's used and because it's targeted. A lot of the marketing and a lot of the writing is targeted at men. And I think certainly us and a generation of, you know, financial experts below us and above us, we're all trying to talk about it in a simple to understand way, because the fundamentals of money is spend less than you earn, budget, you know, which enables you to spend less than you earn. And I always like to say, pay yourself first. So, you know, the moment you get paid, be that monthly or weekly or sporadically for me, that you save a little bit of it or put some towards debt.
I think for me, it's about being conscious about money. So just kind of thinking through what you want out of your life and how can you achieve that? What do you need to do financially to be able to achieve that? And then kind of understanding how you can put those plans in place. And I think it's particularly important for women. I mean, this whole question about how to live well for longer, it's important for women because we live longer, but we typically earn less due to gender pay gap, gender pension gap, taking time out of childcare responsibilities, potentially returning or caring responsibilities, maybe working part-time. There's all these reasons why women, by the time they reach retirement, have brought in less money. So as women, we really need to make every penny count.
Yeah. But we're not just an audience for women. At least 10% of my followers are men. But I think it's worth acknowledging, maybe going back to the sort of money mindset stuff. Is a lot of the stuff I'm exploring at the moment, the why, me in particular, or anybody, why we behave the way we do around money. Does it all go back to, you know, stuff we saw when we were children? Partly, but your money mindset can change throughout your life. And something that we talk about quite a lot and I constantly explore is emotional spending and what are the reasons behind emotional spending. I had a really interesting discussion recently where I was talking to a nutritional person about my weight loss, and that so I've always been an emotional eater, and you wrote an article for me, gosh, maybe like 10 years ago about the link between emotional eating and emotional spending are very similar. And I've stopped emotionally eating because I managed to switch off the patterns in my brain that make me emotionally eat. So I've lost a lot of weight, but I can't switch off the emotional spending thing. So it's like,
oh, that's interesting.
It's really
kind of managed one but not so much the other.
Or have I replaced one with the other?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, no, because I have always been an emotional spender, but like I have had a very emotionally, a very emotional time recently with like illness, and I have noticed my emotional spending really creeping in, which I think is an issue for so many of us, men or women, probably more women than men, but. I just think it's a really interesting one to explore with the sort of mental health side of when we, you know, talk about health. Health is wealth. It's physical health and it's mental health. So we just need to make sure we cover both of those areas when we go through it. So do you want to share a little bit about your health journey and what things it's brought forward in your mind, you know, to because you've been through quite a lot recently that has changed.
Yeah, I think for me, because I'm looking ahead, you know, planning on how to live in the future. I'm in my 50s, and I'm very aware that I'm planning for retirement, thinking about, I write a lot about pensions, you know, how long do I need my money to last? And so I was coming at it very much from a financial point of view and looking at life expectancies. You know, if I'm planning financially, you can go to the Office for National Statistics website. You know, you can check out your life expectancy based on your age, whether you're male or female. So for me, it's 87 years, but I've got 1 in 4 chance of living to 95, 1 in 10 of living to 99. And that, for me, that's,
oh my gosh, that's really scary.
Big enough likelihood. You know, I don't want to run out of money before I turn 100. So that was my planning. You know, financial head on, I need my money to last till I'm 100. But then there was this stat from the Office of National Statistics that completely freaked me out, major mindset change, and that was what the average healthy life expectancy was. So not just how long you were going to live, but how long you were going to live in good health. For a woman, average healthy life expectancy is 61.9.
What?
That is such a massive difference between what your average,
87
between 87 average life expectancy and 1 in 10 chance of living to 99, and then average healthy life expectancy 61.9. Now obviously that varies by postcode, varies by area. It's going to be even younger than that in deprived areas, in wealthier areas it's probably higher. But I think that for me was such a wake-up call that I've been spending all this time, I've been trying to save into a pension so I can have a comfortable retirement. But then there was a vision of, well, if I'm not well enough to enjoy it, I've got all these dreams of retirement, all these things I'd like to do. What happens if I physically cannot do them? Now, there was a bunch of stuff in there as well, you know, friends, illness. But it really made me think about, how can I actually live well? How can I live in good health for longer? And so, you know, literally the last 2 years, it was 2 years ago, that I really started trying to get my weight under control. I started doing the 10,000 steps a day, walking more. I started going to a gym, so I do circuit training now 3 times a week. You know, I really have taken practical steps and quite a lot of hard work. Trying to do something so that I can actually live well for longer, not just be existing, but trying to put stuff in practice now so that in later life I will be able to enjoy it more.
I one of my favourite podcasts I listen to is called What's My Age Again? Which
is Catherine Ryan.
Yeah. Catherine Ryan, please come on my podcast, or let me go on your podcast as a guest. I adore her. Dr. Nicola. Just what they talk about is incredible. But they talk about the aging, and your internal health is different to your external health. But when they talk about sort of what you can do, what you've got control of versus sort of genetics, because I've always thought, because my mum and dad both died of heart attacks, like mum was 58, dad was 63, that it's inevitable that I will just die. And I know that's really morbid to say that, but what they have sort of said in their podcast, and you know, I do a lot of research around this, is 80% of it is the stuff you're in control of. It's the exercise you do, it's the food you eat. It's only 20% genetics. So just because I've got heart disease in my family, if I keep my weight under control and don't smoke, don't drink excessively, then it's probably not going to happen to me. And that was a big realisation of, okay, I probably do need to put more money aside for the future then, rather than just
go out with a bang in your 60s. Yeah, don't need to save for any longer than that.
Like mum and dad didn't access any of their pension money, or very little. Like dad retired when he was 60. He'd worked for the army, the Marines, MOD. He worked in service his entire life, and then he died. Like, that's just ridiculous. So that's a big part of where I'm coming from, and probably it goes a lot towards explaining the emotional spending, because my parents died when I was very young. I have had a lot of therapy over the years, and I will continue to have therapy probably until the day I die, because it's such a traumatic life event to go through as a teenager. It makes you a very resilient, strong person, but it also puts a lot of questionable things into my personality, I recognise. Also makes me fiercely independent, which can be good and bad. So I've always got this impending thing of, I could just die. But then I've also got, but no, if you look after yourself really well, then you won't die, and therefore you have to have money set aside for the future. But like in my 20s, didn't put any money into my pension whatsoever, because at that point I was like, well, I'll probably die when I'm in my 50s, like, you know, my mum did. So what's the point of putting money aside? And that's how uneducated I was, sort of in my 20s. Missed out on a really generous Tesco pension.
Gutting.
Really gutting. But anyway, I have subsequently put money into my pension, so I'm in a much better position now, but by no means have I got enough money in my pension.
I think one of the issues about pension saving is that nobody does know quite how long they're going to live.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky balancing act for anybody trying to manage their pension money, because you've got all these unknowns. You don't know how long you're going to live. You don't know how much prices are going to go up, how much inflation is going to be.
Yeah.
You don't know how stock markets are going to perform if you choose to leave your money invested. So there's all these unknowns. I think the thing that you can, to a certain extent, control is how much you put in. There's some things you can control. So you can control how much potentially you put into a pension.
Yeah.
Choose to divert money into a pension rather than using it for other purposes. You can look at what the charges are on your pension, and there may be more than one layer of charge, a charge for the pension account itself, a charge for the funds that you use. And the more you can bring those fees down, the more of your own money that you will hang on to, and the greater chance it has to compound, to grow over time. So there's things that you can do to try and stretch your money, build up a large enough sum that you can enjoy retirement. In fact, that you can retire at all. I think that's a major issue for a lot of people, that if you don't set aside money in a pension, are you just going to be working until you drop because you cannot afford to stop?
Yeah, and this is the conversation I have with a lot of, say, people in trades work. I was talking to my window cleaner about it, or a builder or a plumber. The priority isn't on putting money into a pension. I mean, I'm self-employed, and I have to admit I haven't put any money in my pension this year because I can't afford it. My turnover's not high enough. But I did have a year where I put in quite a lot of contributions, so I'm counting that forward a little bit. But it's a constant balance when you're in those self-employed roles. But most of us are employed, where you contribute a little bit, your employer contributes a little bit, and then the government contributes a little bit. So you're getting lots of nice little freebies with the money you're putting into your pension.
Yeah, that's the major advantage of pensions, the free money that you get on top. It's the bribery, because you cannot access, you can't just go and take money out of your pension until you reach 55, increasing to 57 in 2028. You can only take money out of a pension then. Apart from some very extreme circumstances. And so the deal is, the government says, okay, if you lock away some money until you're older to help you get through retirement, then in exchange, we'll get your employer, if you've got a work pension scheme, to pay into it, and we'll add tax relief.
Yeah.
So
it's a pension is a, I don't know why. I wonder why it was called pension. You must know the history of the word.
Well,
don't you?
It's actually a very confusing word, isn't it? Because pension can mean so many things. I mean, pension is this blanket term. We all chuck around the word pension, but it means simultaneously the pension pot that we're building up, a pension income that you're when you're drawing it in retirement. It's kind of the state pension, the private pensions, workplace pensions. It's this kind of catch-all term to do with retirement savings.
And I think people hear it and automatically think, boring. I'm just going to ignore that and just bury my head in the sand.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's boring if you're living on next to nothing, because we did the challenge.
My word.
We've done challenges, for example, when we tried to live on the state pension, which at the moment is around about 12 grand a year, and so that £1,000 a month, 250 quid a week, if that's got to cover everything, it's not such an enjoyable life. Personally, I would like my life in retirement to be better funded than relying solely on the state pension.
Yeah, it was an interesting experiment to live off of the state pension. I found it quite tough mental health wise, because I couldn't do anything.
And you couldn't do the emotional spending. You didn't have that outlet that you would normally have.
God, yeah. Anyway, let's not turn this into a therapy session. But it's something I constantly explore. Right, okay, so shall I share a little bit more about my journey? I think my health journey is quite an interesting one, where I've always had issues with my weight, and my weight yo-yos constantly. So I might be, it's awful to admit this, that I'm destroying my body like this, but my weight could be like 3 stone higher in the winter 3 stone less in the summer. So I'll be like a size, like now, size 12 in the summer, and then a size 18 in the winter. And you can't do that to your body, constantly up and down, up and down. And it is linked into sugar addiction, which I think I've managed to curb during 2025 with some injection help. I will summarise that very quickly. It will probably be out public knowledge by then anyway. I spent 3 months testing weight loss jabs, which I did from March till June. Faith obviously knows about all this, but nobody else does. And I just did it as an experiment, lost 3 stone, and I've kept it off.
Brilliant.
So it seems to have switched off the transmitters in my brain. I
switched off the food noise.
It switched off the food noise, but permanently. And it's interesting because I think I'm a bit of a anomaly. Because talking to doctors, I've spoken to so many doctors about this, like GPs and professionals. A lot of people put the weight back on again when they stop taking the injection. So I don't really understand.
Long may it last.
Yeah. And I suppose always just something to be aware of, that food noise might come back. But I think how I've trained my brain is protein is king. And I will go into a restaurant and I will automatically choose the salmon option. And if I get a meal deal, Waitrose meal deal is £5, you know. And you get such good quality food. So I'll get some nice sushi. I'll get some nice edamame beans, which are really high in protein.
Okay.
And then like a healthy drink. And rather than a rubbish sandwich, a bar of chocolate and a fizzy drink.
Yeah, it's got to be healthier.
So I think that's maybe how my brain's changed. I don't know.
I think it's brilliant if it has, because if you're thinking about the kind of the health component of living well for longer, then some of the research, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of the blue zones and Dan Buettner.
No.
It's the idea that there are certain areas of the world that have a higher concentration of people that live healthily past 100 years old.
Yes.
And there's a journalist, Dan, that went round doing research about the common themes between these areas. And, you know, one of the several components, but one of them was consistently people eating more of a plant-based diet and with minimal processed foods.
Yeah.
And so I think so not just the idea that your life expectancy can be improved by managing your weight and not being overweight, but also the quality of the food that you're eating and trying to step away from ultra-processed foods and replace it with a bigger variety of fruit and vegetables and things like beans, pulses, legumes.
Yeah. It's almost... I was going to say it's going back to maybe the food that my mum would have cooked when I was a child, but my mum had a deep fat fryer, so maybe not. We're highly educated, aren't we? We particularly, I think, women of a I was going to say that phrase that you're not allowed to say anymore. Women who are very powerful.
Midlife women. Oh, right, okay.
Women who are very powerful that are maybe going through perimenopause, and because we're struggling with hormones, you have to sort of look at the nutritional side of what we're eating, because there is a bit of a connection between hormonal stuff and nutritional stuff. So apparently you should eat carrots with the skin on.
Okay. I was thinking more about the research in gut health, because so many of the hormones that control mood are generated from your stomach.
Well, I was giving a practical tip about carrots. Make sure you scrub it clean. But no, there's a lot of research about gut health, and your emotions are really tied into what goes on in your gut. So if there's all kinds of bad stuff going on with your digestion and your gut, then you may well feel a little bit messed, a little bit different in your head. I certainly do.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's that?
Kombucha.
Kombucha.
The kind of fermented foods, fermented drinks. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for the gut health. Which leads us on to tips and tricks to be healthy, but like when you maybe don't have loads of money.
Which way do you want to go? Which way do you want to start? Financial health or kind of mental, physical health? What's your
this is
your angle?
ways to be healthy, sort of physically wise and mental health wise, but when you don't have much money. So starting with exercise, gym memberships are very expensive.
Yeah,
but you don't have to be a member of the gym.
You don't have to be a member of the gym. And I think there's a lot of research that just the walking, I know that 10,000 steps a day is a bit of a think up, but I think there is consistent research that sitting at a desk all day, slumping on a sofa every evening is not that great for your body and your longevity. So actually getting outside in the open air, walking every day, that is completely free.
Yeah.
Completely free. And
you're in nature.
Yeah.
Well, try to get to nature, even if it's human nature. But when I'm walking, I mean, sometimes I walk with a and I'm a big walker as well. Sometimes I walk with a podcast, so I'm learning whilst I walk. But sometimes I focus on all 5 senses. What can you smell? What can you touch? What can you see? What can you hear? What birds are there? And then I'll be like, right, what bird is that? What bird is that? Oh, that's a really exciting bird that's quite rare. I just, whenever I feel overwhelmed mentally with workload or kids or whatever, just go out for a walk.
So I think on the exercise front, starting with walking, again, you don't need fancy equipment, you don't need a fancy smartwatch. Most people's mobile phones have a pedometer on them if you want to, if you're interested in tracking. I'm a big fan of some of the running apps.
Yeah.
Because again, a decent pair of running shoes, decent sports bra, and anybody can
Please make sure
get
you
out
get
there.
a good sports bra.
Absolutely.
It's really important.
But there's the free NHS app, Couch to 5K, one I use that I think has an annual subscription, None to Run. And then if you do want to go to a gym, and it doesn't suit everybody, I've been a very active user in the past of like local authority, not-for-profit gyms.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. And there's so much that you can do at home in terms of exercise videos.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah.
I use Samsung, and the Samsung Health app is incredible, and it's free, and there's loads of videos of stuff you can follow. So I don't need to go to a yoga class because I can just. I mean, it's different doing it online versus a real life class. I totally accept that. But
perhaps it gives you the chance that you can try out some stuff for
free,
and then if it's something that you're interested in pursuing further, you can actually work it into your budget.
Yeah. Local tennis courts, they're normally always free. Tennis is great cardio.
Yeah.
Cycling, a lot of us have got bikes, free. There's so much stuff you can actually do and not pay a monthly gym subscription. There are also some quite cheap gyms, like the ones that my kids go to, like Pure Gym and all those kind of places. It's not really for me because I'm not really a cheap and cheerful kind of person.
But again, if you can save money in certain areas, it frees up. It can potentially free up cash for the thing that is a real priority.
Yeah, and it's also inextricably linked, the physical health benefits and the mental health benefits.
Yeah.
If you get out and go for a walk, you get out and go for a run or a bike ride, it is going to help your mental health. It's very, very proven by many, many doctors.
Definitely. I've been paying for a gym for the last 2 years, and there was one point where my husband, we were kind of going over the budget, and he's like, yeah, you're not giving that up. He said, you're less ratty if you go to the gym. So I'm gonna put that on, offset. Much cheaper to go to the gym than get a divorce. So.
But also, think about, you do quite a bit of sort of weight bearing stuff at your gym, don't you? And the weight stuff's really important as you get older.
That was absolutely a conscious choice, because when I started looking into the kind of the healthy life expectancy, living well for longer, then a really important thing for me seemed to be women in their 40s and 50s doing weight-bearing exercise to try and stave off the dreadful effects of things like osteoporosis in later life.
Yes. So HRT, you don't... do you take HRT?
No, I don't actually.
Because you've not had any bad...
Yeah, I think I've
side
had
effects. You think you've got away
pretty
with
minimal side effects, apart from the sleep being rubbish, and that is something that I need to work on, because I think that is another facet that has been shown. If you can have better sleep, it can help you live longer and better.
That is potentially, I'm not your doctor, but that's potentially linked to progesterone levels.
Okay.
So maybe go check that one out.
Yeah, I have got blood tests in at the moment.
Good. So I have been taking HRT for 4 years.
Okay.
Since I was 44. I had the worst of the worst symptoms: insomnia, anxiety, anger, depression, and a lot of those flow from the insomnia. I know the root cause was sleep. Itchy skin, hair falling out, excessive bruising, cholesterol went through the roof, my platelets dropped even lower than they're low anyway. Just so many symptoms. So I started taking estrogen gel, started on quite a low dose. I'm up to a much higher dose now. And then I have the coil for progesterone. And then sometimes I have to take extra progesterone if the coil isn't. Sometimes I suffer from bleeding, but that's all linked to platelet issues. But what the estrogen has done, it's really interesting, is so cholesterol, really big concern for me because my parents died of heart attacks. Also a very big concern to the GP. So my cholesterol went up to 6.5, which is not good. It's classed as very high. Not even high, very high. So the doctors were like, you've got to go on to statins. I'm like, got to investigate that. Let me come back to you. So I went off, and basically that's when I started the weight loss jabs.
Right.
Because I was like, there's no way in the world I'm taking statins every day. I am going to beat this.
Yeah.
And my cholesterol, and I upped my estrogen as well. So the impact of losing weight and upping my estrogen has reduced my cholesterol down to 5.2. So I'm nearly in the safety zone.
Fantastic.
Below 5 is the overall target. I know you've got good and bad cholesterol, but broadly speaking. And my platelets have risen as well. So estrogen is really, really, and progesterone and testosterone, but I think the one we talk about the most is estrogen and progesterone. Really, really important. So everybody should get them checked because there are silent symptoms. Osteoporosis is a classic silent symptom of hormones having an effect on your body, and osteoporosis is where your bones are weaker.
Yeah. And so looking at your hormones, doing weight bearing, exercise, thinking about your diet, making sure you're getting enough calcium. You know, it's kind of a combination of measures.
And protein.
Yeah, that can all help.
But predominantly, as we've already mentioned, sleep is key. So if your sleep is broken, which mine is at the moment, it's if I wake up in the morning and I see I've had 6 hours of total sleep, I'm happy, and that's not a good situation to be in because we should be getting 7 to 8 hours with a good chunk of that deep sleep stage, because that's the one where your body repairs, the muscle repair and the mind repair. I mean, I check it all on my watch, which I am slightly obsessed with.
Do you think it's a positive thing, or is it creating anxiety, or is it helping you to improve things and reduce anxiety?
That's a very good question. It is probably creating anxiety.
Right.
And there's also an argument that you shouldn't have any form of tech devices in your bedroom anywhere near your sleeping space.
Yeah, I haven't managed that. I have read about that. Maybe we should do that. Do one of those things like for a week, got to charge your phone downstairs.
We could turn it into content. We could pitch it to newspapers. It is a challenge. That's a good idea. Well, that's why you're a journalist. Why we are journalists. Okay, so we've talked about... I think we've covered everything in that section. Brilliant. Right, where are the areas where you really need to spend money and not scrimp? I've got a really good one.
Oh, okay. Where you really need to spend money. I'm not sure it's live well for longer, but I, as a frugal blogger who's always looking to cut costs, I do buy insurance. But I think just the idea that thinking about your financial future and actually putting money into savings, into sinking funds for a specific thing, into pensions, so that you're setting money aside to take care of your financial future. What were you thinking of then for where you're not going to scrimp?
Therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I wasn't explicit enough with my question. Right. I've got, and I have expressed this on many a podcast.
Yeah.
I think, so the mental health, the state of mental health in our country is in a total mess, whether you're age 5 all the way through to
105.
105. So if you can afford it, I really think you should spend your own money on counselling, therapy, whatever level of therapeutic care you need. We all have something in our life which is maybe a traumatic event, which plays on you in later life. Everybody's got something. So I do think that most people, all people, would benefit from some kind of therapy. But please, if you can afford it, pay for it. You'll get it a lot quicker. But don't just assume that it's your right to have it on the NHS, because I pay for therapy, and I see a psychotherapist / coach. I don't know what you'd call it. She's certainly not a counsellor. It's more than that, because I pay her like more than £100 an hour, but less than 130. That's all I'm going to say. She's well worth it. She's absolutely worth her weight in gold. She's been my therapist since my divorce, and she's now moved more into a coach, but because she's got that therapeutic side. It's human givens therapy, which is the thing that I'm stepping into, where I'm learning to become a human givens psychotherapist. So I've been a client. I want to learn all about it because it can only enrich my life and Mrs Mummypenny and my future retirement planning, all kinds of things, and relationships with people, everything. But I just think therapy is amazing, and I wish sort of people were. There's still a lot of shame around it, and it's so bad if I have to go to therapy and I have to talk to somebody to help me sort out my problems. Well, we've all got something we can talk to a therapist about, and please don't just rely on the NHS to provide that for you if you need it, because they're so overwhelmed.
Yeah. If somebody's got a broken leg, it's very visible, and everybody accepts you should do something about it. But I think when it comes to mental health, it's so much. It's not so visible. It's not so obvious. But trying to get help and sort problems out is equally, if not more, important.
Yeah. And a lot of what I probably spend maybe like 70% of my writing is about personal finance. Mm-hmm. But most of the financial problems we talk about are a result of a mental health issue, or maybe a physical issue. Like, I think the root cause of a lot of the stuff we're writing about, emotional spending, debt, maybe not so much of, the pension, the investment, the more positive side, but some of the perceived shameful side of personal finance is a result of circumstance or a traumatic event. It's like when you trace it all back to, root cause, if you could just have a little bit of therapy to sort out that root cause of that trauma, would that resolve everything?
I think
it's quite a big statement.
I think it's certainly true that I would see a lot of coverage about money focuses on the numbers, and it's coming from a perspective that somehow imagine that everybody would be completely logical and make decisions based on what is cheapest or best value. And it's just not the case at all. Everybody has different backgrounds when it comes to money. I think they reckon that people's attitudes to money are set by the age of 7. So much of it comes from your parents, from your background, from those experiences, which are not necessarily logical. And I know a lot of the stuff that I do in trying to help people be successful with their money is looking at it through a behavioural lens, and the tips and tricks so that you can be more productive with your money behaviours.
Yeah, just like a simple, it's not simple at all, but you know when people say you should never overpay your mortgage, there are people
there are people who say
that say
right, don't overpay
because when you look at the numbers, it doesn't make sense, as in,
what are you doing with your money? What's the alternative use?
The alternative is to invest.
Is this the investing? Right. Okay.
Invest.
Yeah.
So I should have made that clear. So if you've got excess money,
yes.
you've got three rough choices. You can either overpay your mortgage, you can invest some money in some stocks and shares, ISAs, or you can chuck some into your pension. So I constantly see this debate going on in the financial world of, well, no, you should obviously invest the money because you're going to get a better return than the interest rate you're paying on your mortgage. But and our personal circumstances as well. I have a large mortgage outstanding. You do not. The freedom you've got, the financial freedom you have from not having that mortgage to pay is significant, and the financial stress I have from having my mortgage is significant. But then an interesting thing we've been talking about recently is you've got an older house,
and
I've got a modern house, so my cost of repairs is so much less than yours.
Yeah,
so it's all
it's all different levers. I mean, I think for
it's
my family,
for everybody,
there's been a very conscious decision to try and avoid debt. Because, fundamentally, debt is expensive. If you have debt, you are paying interest to somebody else. Whereas if you've built up money yourself, whereas in savings or investment, then you're the one who's getting paid the interest and the dividends. And so that was a very conscious decision when we moved from London. We had a house in London, which we sold up and moved out to Suffolk, an area with a lower cost of living, lower property prices. And it meant we could buy a house with no mortgage.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a mortgage. We don't have car financing. Mm-hmm. We buy secondhand cars with cash and run them into the ground. We don't run credit card debt, but have direct debits set up to pay it off in full on time every month. Now, that is coming from a massive position of privilege that our income levels have been high enough to maintain that.
Yeah.
And I'm not dissing that, and the fact that I am in a couple, so there's kind of my husband and I, so both of us trying to work in the same direction to manage our money. I fully recognise that, for most of us, we're kind of one major life event away from significant disruption.
It's a divorce. It's an illness.
It's job loss.
Losing your job,
Yeah. These things that caring responsibilities, that's one of the other things that can really screw up your financial life. So I'm not trying to, I have been very lucky that currently we can live a life without debt, but that also has been a conscious choice. To avoid it, to buy a certain kind of a car that we could afford, or to live a certain lifestyle that we can afford.
You are frugal. You're not super frugal. I say you live within your means.
Yeah.
And you always
very
have.
consciously try and do that, yeah.
I have never, there's maybe a couple of years where but again, driven by circumstance of earning, is only where I've earned a lot of money. In my 20s, I was fine. I earned a lot of money in my 20s. Then I married the wrong person and it all went wrong. The biggest financial decision you can take is the person you marry.
Yeah. Well, I like to quote the book The Millionaire Next Door about the kind of, ordinary, normal people that have managed to build up a whole chunk of assets. And one of the phrases in that was same house, same car, same wife, well, same spouse. So those are three of the things that if you go crazy with those, financial situation is not great.
Anyway, I've had the same house for 16 years.
Yeah.
I've just probably not done so well with the cars or the husband.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. Right. That's over with the discussion. So I've got like a quick fire thing to end with that I've definitely asked you before, but you need to come up with something different.
Okay.
What's your biggest financial mistake?
Biggest financial mistake? not starting to invest early enough. I did pay into a pension and I did do cash savings, but I did not start investing in the stock market, that kind of medium term stuff, until, till about 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I started when I was 22.
Actually investing in stocks and shares.
Right, I worked at HSBC.
Yeah.
So my first week, I opened a stocks and shares ISA.
Yeah, no, didn't do that. And again, I think it's part of my mum. My mum always referred to, she thinks of the stock market as gambling.
Yeah.
Had been hitting me about the head virtually since I was a student. When are you going to get on the property ladder? So I had that as an aim. So I got on the property ladder. I started a pension, got on the property ladder, but it's that missing chunk.
Yeah.
The investing chunk.
That's interesting. Gosh, that's really surprised me about you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think as well, all the they reckon that you're much more focused on losses, the pain of losses, than how much you can gain. And I spent so long writing about the stock market, well, not being paid terribly well as a journalist, so much time writing about the stock market, pointing out that share prices can go down as well as up, capital at risk, don't invest money, you cannot afford to lose. And I think for me, a bit like the light bulb moment about healthy life expectancy, for me it was the light bulb moment that the chances of stock market investing beating cash get higher. The probability that you're going to come up on top gets larger and larger longer the time frame.
Yeah.
And so I think in the old versions of the Barclays equity gilt study, the chances of investing beating cash, equities beating cash over 18 years was 99%.
Wow.
And so it was like, when I came, my kids were at the age when there was something called child trust funds.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Government gave out vouchers, but the money was tied up for 18 years. And it was like, then that's got to be investing. I absolutely know I should not be putting that voucher into cash. I've got to invest.
Yeah. Really interesting discussion with Dylan last night, not this morning because I left before they woke up. So Dylan's just turned 18.
Yeah.
Or predates because this podcast comes out a bit later. So sorry if I'm time dating things in the wrong way. But Dylan turned 18 and his junior ISA, child trust fund, I turned it into a junior ISA, and he got 3,200 quid on his birthday, which is such a massive amount of money for an 18-year-old. He is lucky he's got a mum like me. And he was saying to me, I don't understand where the money's come from. So I was like, well, when you were born, the government gave me a £250 voucher, and then because I was working for EE then, I topped it up a little bit, but I think I probably put in about £1,000, and now you're 18, that is now worth 3,200 quid. That is literally how you explain investing to people, isn't it? An 18-year period of time, £1,000 turned into 3,200. I don't know if I put it in the right place. I did move it to somewhere that had really good fees.
Okay. Yeah.
But what we're trying to make the decision about now is what to do with that money.
Yeah.
Because it's do you leave it in stocks and shares? I think he wants to spend a little bit of it, but I'm not going to let him spend much. But then that's the ultimate thing, isn't it, about that money? It's his.
Yes. Yeah, that is the thing with junior ISAs. It's in the child's name. When they're 18, they could choose to blow the lot, and you just have to hope that you've had enough conversations with them, perhaps over time, that it will be either spent productively or remain invested.
He won't blow the lot. Right, okay, what's your biggest financial success?
It's got to be housing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're mortgage free.
Yeah, that's, and again,
you
a large part of that is just luck in terms of timing, because I bought my first flat, I think, 1999, just before the millennium, and in London, and just saw everything come up.
Where did you buy?
Off the Caledonian Road, so North London.
Nice.
And then after that, my husband also had a flat. We cashed those in. We bought the house in Stoke Newington in North London, and then we moved out to Suffolk. And so I think there was definitely, I had to save for a long time. I was buying on my own. I had to save for a long time and have a job that was paying enough that I could raise a deposit and raise a mortgage. But I think the housing market has completely changed since then. The multiples, the house prices have so far outstripped earnings.
Yeah.
You know, I was incredibly lucky.
I was working this out earlier. So my very first house I bought, I was 24 and it was 200 grand, a 3-bed house near Brentwood in Essex. Put down a 20% deposit. I was earning 25 grand at the time. That same house is now worth 800. Salaries for 24-year-olds, probably still 25 grand. Maybe a bit more because I was working in the city, but the maths just don't work.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are our children going to get on the property market?
I think part of it's going to be bank of mum and dad.
But I don't have that bank of mum and dad because it's me and all my money's tied up in my house.
Yeah.
Or my pension.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, no doubt Mrs Mummypenny is going to do so well, take care of it. But I think there is a very active, there could be a very active choice at some point in your life. At the moment, the house you have is because you are raising 3 boys.
Yeah.
And so there does become a decision later in life, you know, is that the life you want for yourself? Do you need to maintain that house in that location? Or could you do other things with the funds if you moved?
Yeah. Downsize and go mortgage free. They can just sort themselves out. Brilliant. Where can people find you?
My website is muchmorewithless.co.uk. I'm muchmore_less on Instagram and X, and I'm also on Facebook.
Fabulous. Thank you ever so much. That was quite a meandering conversation, but I think we talked about quite a lot of stuff that we've never talked about before. Yeah. And you had a lot of stats that I didn't know about. I'm quite that age of 62 thing.
Yeah, healthy life expectancy.
That's really scary.
But I think we're at a stage where we can make a difference. And I think you've already made choices about wanting to extend your healthy life expectancy because you don't want to run into the heart problem. So you're already taking actions. Yeah. And maybe it'll be that additional motivation to keep going.
Yeah, and keeping the weight off, because once you've taken it off, you need to keep it off, which I have done so far. Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Faith. Really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.